Welcome to Bookends of Recovery. I'm Laura, a certified life coach. I believe that we face challenges through hope and action. Today, we are going to talk about how to stay motivated. Super important when we're going through addiction recovery and healing. I'm going to start out by sharing something called the spoon theory. I know I talk about my migraines a lot on here. Don't worry. Wait, did I just hear you guys like take a collective sigh? I know. But the spoon theory we can apply to addiction and mental health. So let me just share it with you and you'll see why in just a minute. But I learned about it when I was a moderator on a migraine forum, and the person who came up with it is a woman named Christine Miserandino, and I hope that's how you say it. I am so sorry if it's not. But Christine has lupus, and she was out to lunch one day with her friend, and she was trying to describe to her friend what it was like to have a chronic illness. And her friend just wasn't quite understanding. And so Christine grabbed a handful of spoons, like from all the different tables, and handed them to her friend. And Christine explained that each spoon represented a unit of energy. So Christine asked her friend to describe the activities of a typical day. And as her friend described her day, Christine removed a spoon for each activity. And her friend ran out of spoons pretty quickly. And so Christine explained that she had a limited amount of spoons, aka energy, to use each day. And while her friend's spoons, energy, were seemingly infinite, Christine's were limited. And then that meant she had to plan her day accordingly. So sometimes rationing her spoons meant, she could make it to a lunch date or to a doctor's appointment, but other days, if it was like a high pain day, she would only be able to take a shower. So for me, like for example, there's a day that I'm rarely not in some kind of pain, whether that's because of a migraine or my shoulder injury or whatever. I can relate to this a lot. And so I also think it's an excellent way to describe, invisible illness because of, I have to be aware of how many spoons it's going to take to do a particular task. But I also think it's a great way that we can apply to addiction and mental health because we may have limited resources or even limited tools in our recovery toolbox because you may be new into recovery or into your healing. You could be coming off of a setback or a relapse. You could be struggling with brain fog or going through withdrawal. So understanding our limitations at times can be helpful. And there are ways to prepare for your day. So we can, and don't worry, we'll get to the motivation. I just want you guys to have a way to prep for your day with as many tools as you can. So you want to have a way to do a mental inventory. Your eyes open and, you take that sip of water that's on your bedside, right? Gotta stay hydrated. And, do that mental inventory of yourself. Do that physical inventory of yourself. Are you feeling any kind of anxiety for the day ahead? Are you going to be facing any stressors? What about triggers? That kind of thing. What does your day have in store? And then create a game plan for it. Are you going to be able to face them? What tools can you have ahead of time? And is it possible to avoid these things altogether? I'm not talking about avoidance. I'm talking about, is there a way to rearrange your schedule or a different route to take to work, that kind of thing, or a route to go on your errands, whatever. And be mindful of blast and halt. This way you can reserve your spoons so you're not so susceptible to your triggers. Throughout your day, try to do things that will promote balance so you're not being zapped of all that energy, those um, energy vampires that are out there. Sometimes they're people. So if you're finding that you're having energy vampires, is there a way to check in with loved ones? Just a quick check-in conversation, or a way to spend time with people who fill you up, right? So we can have ways to reserve your spoons. So understanding that there are people who fill up your cup, and understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup. So find a way to laugh throughout your day. There's a podcast that I listen to without fail anytime I work. And that's because it's not that work is an energy vampire, but it can be draining. And so I like to make sure that my mind frame stays in a positive note, because there can be people that are at my job that are, wah wah, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna let that be in my space. And so when that podcast runs out, because I just I consume it, and I just love them so much, and so I have another backup podcast, or I'll listen to old episodes. And so, even if it means watching, puppy and cat videos, whatever it takes, and visualize your happy place or a favorite memory. We've talked about that. If you don't know, that's a couple episodes back. You can create a vision board or work on your vision board, update it. Utilize your recovery and healing toolkit. If you don't have it started, now is a great time. And if you are feeling, anxious or frustrated, honor your emotions and process them. Keep up with your gratitude list, because when you're maintaining that attitude of gratitude, it does shift your emotions. Keep your affirmation cards handy. I've talked before about how I like to have mine purple and, well, colored and colorful. And so if you are like, oh, that just seems like a lot, go on my website. I already have some pre-filled out for you, so that'll kind of give you a head start, because sometimes people are like, I don't even know where to begin with affirmations. So I've got some that are already written out for you to kind of lead you and get you started, the little prompts. And then prioritize your day with bite-sized goals. We've talked about SMART goals. Those are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, right? And we'll talk more about goals in just a minute. But we want to make sure that our boundaries are also in place. And these are things to reserve our spoons, to keep us with enough energy to keep us motivated. And keep in mind, right, what is the good, not what good is it. So now that we've got our spoons reserved, now we can go on and talk about being motivated. Because when we're in the process of, recovery and healing, that is one of the biggest challenges we face. Because it doesn't matter if we're brand new or we've been doing this for a long time. It can be easy to become stagnant. And when we're stagnant, it's easy to go down that slippery slope. And this holds true for anyone, whether we're in recovery or in a relationship with someone. We need to make sure we stay motivated to take care of ourselves and put ourselves at the top of our priority list and maintain our boundaries. I think I've shared before that I'm a bit of a nerd. One of my favorite quotes is from a D&D based novel. If anyone knows anything about D&D, you probably know who R.A. Salvatore is, and you probably know who Dritz is. I know that's not how it's supposed to be pronounced, but I'm not going to say it any other way because I'm old. That's how I'm going to say it, darn it. But anyway, Montolio said in the Book of Sojourn, um, those who aspire to less accomplish less. There can be no doubt. It is better, I think, to grab at the stars than to sit flustered because you cannot reach them. At least he who reaches will get a good stretch, a good view, and perhaps even a low-hanging apple for his efforts. I love that quote because it reminds me that no matter what the outcome is, as long as I'm trying, I'm still pursuing personal growth and gaining valuable experiences along the way. And so I use this quote to inspire me to keep following my goals and not place like a lot of limitations on myself. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to try out for gymnastics anytime soon, but within reason. But I also remind myself not to let the addict's voice sneak in if I'm having an insecure day, because that still happens to me. I'm human. And we just need to be mindful of those insecurities and fears and other negative thoughts when we're active, that happen, when we're active in our disease. Because, when we are active in our disease, it was easy to stay motivated to continue unhealthy behaviors because that's what we trained our brain to do. Now we're trying to untrain our brain and retrain it into a healthier way. So how do we stay motivated in our healthy recovery and healing? For people struggling, we know we can't turn to our DOC. And for people healing, we have to find a healthy support group and guidance, right? So one of the easiest things to do, I say it's easy, it's actually not that easy, is to celebrate, because we're not used to celebrating ourselves. But we celebrate it's almost easier for us to celebrate the big wins because they're easy to spot than the smaller wins. But we need to get in the habit of celebrating everything. For instance, like if someone's, just started out in recovery, of course you're going to celebrate day one, and then you're going to celebrate 30 days. But what about all that stuff in between? You have to be able to celebrate and recognize all the smaller wins too. Maybe you had the courage to, if you're in 12 steps and you spoke in a meeting, or you started your step work, you found a sponsor. If you're in healing and you joined a support group and you spoke in or you went to counseling, those kinds of things, or you reached out to somebody, you were vulnerable. These are wins. You started a workbook. Whatever it is, you're doing something that's moving you away from the negative and towards the positive. You're changing your mindset. And I know mindset's like one of those words, but it's true. You're creating a healthier pathway for your brain to travel, and that's the biggest and most important thing to keep you away from going back to the unhealthy things. And so you can celebrate yourself with anything that can help you remind you of your success. And it doesn't have to break the bank. Some examples are like little charms, coins, stamps, the key tags, unique shells or rocks that you find on a walk, like a small special treat. just anything that you can think of that's special to you. Uh, I'm just thinking off the, the top of my head, like paparazzi jewelry is $5 a piece. Just whatever, and then you can also use these things as anchors. You can carry them in your pocket, and then you touch them, and you're like, I did that. Like this that I'm wearing, this ring or this bracelet or this necklace or whatever. This is a reminder that I did something brave and courageous and vulnerable or whatever. You can also track your progress because when you're tracking progress, it's a mental boost. Uh, and whether you do this, in a journal, a calendar, an app, it can be a great motivator. Now, I will say this, a word of caution. I have worked with people who have found that tracking days caused more anxiety in the very beginning because there's for some reason the 30-day mark and then the 6 month mark and then right around the year there seems to be this anxiety that kind of just gets in your chest, and you can't see me but I'm showing you. It's like in your chest and in your throat. It gets very tense, and that kind of causes, like, you're setting yourself up for this great expectation, like I'm going to hit 30, and it just gets in your head, or I'm going to hit 6 months, and people find it stressful. So if you find that to be true, and you're, for some reason, whenever you're getting around 30 days, you have a setback, or whenever you're going around 6 months and you're having a setback, you can try doing your setback prevention plan, or you can do what my husband did. Just note the day that you started recovery and celebrate that day whenever it comes back around, uh, because that's the day when his life changed for the better. Or you can do like what I did, was I didn't even know my day. I actually had it wrong for years, until I pulled out a calendar one day and I was like, oh my gosh, it's not the 26th, it's the 29th. Because it was on Thanksgiving. But anyway, so yeah, so I celebrate my quote unquote birthday on the last time I used my DOC. But there's really no one way to do it. It's what works for you, because you're the one that matters in how you track your progress. So do what works for you. You'll figure it out. And if you've listened here before, you know I love to tell you what a superstar that you are, and I mean it. But another way to stay motivated is to see yourself as the superstar of your own journey. And by that, I mean use your imagination and write the story of your journey. Whether that's your recovery journey or your healing journey. And you don't have to be some creative, amazing author. Just, no one's going to see it but you, or unless you want to share it with your accountability partner or your sponsor or whatever. But just imagine, what you look like in this story. Are you yourself? Are you a superhero or a rock star, a unicorn? Maybe you're a dwarf from a D&D story. I mean, I'm just saying. But let your imagination run wild. If you want, you can print out a picture, or maybe you're way more talented than I am, and you can sketch it. And then you can carry that around, because if you're feeling low, you can pull out that picture and be like, wait, I wrote the story about this. Or you can carry that story around or write it on the back of the picture. And that will be your reminder. And I think it was last week, and you can't see me, but I'm drawing a circle, where those moments when you can step out, when you want to, you have that urge to use, you can step out of that moment and pull out something from your recovery and healing toolkit, and this can be another item. And you can pull that out and be like, nope, I am a superstar, and I am not going to um, cave. I'm not going to do it. And so that's just something else to add. And don't forget to build up your community, because participating in a community fosters connection. Because what's the opposite of addiction? Connection. Having a community around you will help you have more empathy. It'll give you learning opportunities. I mean, look at me. I was sober for how long? Almost a decade before I even heard about emotional sobriety. I had no idea what it was. Uh, and if you're listening to me right now and you're like, well, I have no idea what it is, emotional sobriety is the ability to feel all of our emotions, the good, the bad, and then process those feelings. And then we move through them. We lean into them, but most of all, we don't ignore them. And when we're emotionally sober, we have balance in our life. And there's a saying in AA about emotional sobriety. Somebody says, my definition of balance is being able to obsess equally in all areas of my life. It's funny, but it's pretty accurate. But when we're emotionally sober, we can let things go, remain calm, even during chaotic times, and not substitute one unhealthy behavior for another. And then we find gratitude, even in challenging moments. And so, yeah. And I've mentioned this before, but if you ever want to hear a fantastic talk about it, look up Tom B. Emotional Sobriety on YouTube. You don't even have to be in AA. It's an AA talk, but anyone can listen to it. It's a really good discussion. But there are some great communities out there. Almost all of them, are the ones that I'm about to share, are free. I think Bloom for Women is free, but like AA, Al-Anon, SAA, I think Bloom for Women is free. I'm not 100% sure. She Recovers. Impact Suite does have a fee, but it's pretty small. ADDO, Recovery Nation. But if you're looking for resources to find that community, my website, go to the resource hub, and I've got them all there. But this will give you someone to reach out to if you're struggling, giving you that courage to pick up that 300-pound phone or, the keyboard, because there are people out there and they want to help you. And that includes me. Just reach out. Don't be afraid to email me. I may not get to you right away, but I will get to you. And again, those goals, they just need, like I said, SMART goals. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to stay, sober the whole month of November or December or whatever, especially if you're struggling with setbacks. Instead, set a smaller, more attainable goal, and then celebrate yourself. Go get that ice cream or that book or, I don't know, pair of jeans that you've wanted, because you deserve it. And so the more that you reward yourself with smaller things, the more you're telling your brain, hey, it's okay. Like, I'm creating this healthy pathway, and I'm going to keep moving down this healthy pathway. Now, that doesn't mean go out and get, like, unhealthy treats all the time. We don't want to trade on one unhealthy habit for another, but you know what I'm saying. And then, as you're planning these things, use the KISS method, right? Keep it simple. And you can do that by just planning things throughout your day, because when your feet hit the floor, all of a sudden, what? Things get chaotic. So, you know what? I meant to say this earlier. When you're laying there and you're doing your self check in, if you're someone who, I don't know, if you pray or meditate, you can do it then and then do your plans. That kind of like sets the tone. But if you can keep your plans simple and then understand that your plans are not poured into concrete, right? Their plans are fluid. I'm someone who used to be not upset, but not happy when plans changed. And so, I'm someone who still to this day struggle. Like if I'm late to something, that just bothers me. Uh, but yeah, so you have to learn that things are fluid. It's okay, things change. Be the duck, let the water slide off of you. And I still don't like to be late. I think it's disrespectful. But um, so I will do everything I can to plan accordingly so that I don't feel that anxiety of being late. And then, that phrase, if you are in 12 step, if you're not, it's okay. But there's a phrase, you spot it, you got it. In 12 steps, that refers to the idea that when you notice a negative trait or behavior in someone, it might be something in yourself that you should be looking at. So let's just say, like in other words, the traits we are quick to like criticize or point out in others are often like the ones that we struggle with ourselves. Like even if we don't realize we have them. So like if I might say to somebody, "Oh, she's such a gossip," and when in reality I'm the gossip. You know what I mean? But for motivational purposes, we can take this concept and flip it around. So look for someone who inspires you. That's what I did when I was actually looking for a sponsor when I was in 12 steps. I was looking for someone who had what I wanted. So look for someone who has things like, I don't know, personal growth, emotional sobriety, optimism, self esteem, healthy boundaries, um, good communication, proper self care, healthy relationships. And like I said, if you're in the 12 step process, that person can be your sponsor. And if you need motivation, you can, if you're not, in 12 steps, then you can find somebody like, I don't know, your mom, or if you don't have a good relationship with your family, it could be somebody you admire, like a famous person, or I don't know. I'm trying to pull names from the air, and I can't think of anybody, but which is not great, um, but you can carry their picture for inspiration, or you can, like I've talked about Brene Brown, you can watch an inspiring webinar or a podcast or read inspiring posts or blogs and books. And I did just mention boundaries, and I want to make sure that you understand how important boundaries are in your recovery. I know we're talking about motivation right now, but I just want you to understand that as you're working in your recovery, that boundaries play a huge part. So make sure that you have healthy boundaries. And something else that can help keep you motivated is a routine. So as you're doing your, your morning wake up and your self check-in, and you're evaluating, yourself mentally and physically, notice your emotions, allow yourself to sit, then move through them. Think about what you have planned for your day. think about your spoons, um, but then also think of other things that you can incorporate into your day, because people find that doing things like a daily skincare routine in the morning, and journaling in the evening, or writing up that gratitude list, provide structure and stability. So be sure to include things that promote your well-being. Like whether that's exercise, hobbies, mindfulness practice, but those things give you structure and keep you motivated to keep going. It's like little bricks in your foundation of your recovery. And remember, self-care isn't selfish. It's so important. So take time out of your day to include time for yourself. It, I used to say 20 minutes, sometimes I still do, but ideally it would be nice if it was 30 minutes, whether it's in the morning or in the evening. You need to do something that makes your heart smile. Some people exercise, some people pray, meditate, read, write, do yoga, walk in nature, sing, dance, whatever makes your heart happy, you deserve to do it. And remember that sleeping well, hydrating, eating, eating healthy, not just that ice cream I mentioned earlier, but eating healthy are all part of self-care. Volunteering and doing or not self, not self work, but volunteering and doing service work, and helping others, giving back what is so freely given to us, it fills your heart and your soul with love. And that just fills up your spirit and love jar. I don't know how else to say it, but it keeps your love jar full. But learn, and then learn some more. Like, just learn about your addiction recovery and learn about your healing. Understand where your triggers are coming from. The more you learn about it, the more it can empower you to make informed choices about what you're doing on this journey of yours. And don't be afraid to ask for professional help. I'm a life coach, but I am not a trained therapist. My therapist helped me navigate through my relational trauma and my abuse. She is amazing. And so much of my healing is because of what I went through with her. And I owe her so much. So please, if you need professional help, go get it. And I loved her because, I didn't have insurance, and she did a sliding scale, and she was amazing. But, and give yourself grace, because we have a way of being our own worst critic. And especially if a setback happens, whether that's in recovery or healing, we have to remember to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and learn from what happened, and then move forward. We fall forward. No wallowing in shame. And remember my saying. Well, it's not my saying. It's the one I keep using. But from Brene Brown, on shame versus guilt. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. So how many of you, if you did something that was hurtful to me, would you be willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake? Or how many of you would be willing to say, guilt, I'm sorry I made a mistake. Shame, I'm sorry I am a mistake. You, my superstars, are not a mistake. So no matter where you are in your recovery and healing, whether this is your first day, your 100th day, or your 101st day, there is always hope. and I'm in your corner. And you've got this. So if you have any questions, you'd like some free downloadable worksheets, just please visit my website, lifecoachlaura.org. And this is Life Coach Laura wishing you a beautiful day because you 100% deserve it. Thank you so much for stopping by.